the privilege of introducing Sir Lenny. He is a hero and an icon. And I wanted to tell everyone he needs no introduction, but I think he deserves one. He's risen, as you say, Esther, from being a cult star on children's television to becoming one of Britain's best known television performers. He's a writer, a philanthropist, obviously a comedian, and an actor. And most recently, he's been on The Witcher, Blood Origins, Rings of Power, Broadchurch, The Syndicate, and the biographic film Danny and the Human Zoo. In theater, he starred in The Comedy of Errors at the National and Fences at the Duchess Theater. But of course, he is here to talk about being a co founder of Comic Relief, which has raised more than £1 billion for alleviating poverty in the United Kingdom and Great Britain and around the world. He's a leading advocate for diversity and the arts, and he established the Center for Media Diversity in Birmingham City University. And of course, for all of his great work, he was knighted in 2015. So I think we should just bring on Sir Lenny.
And please do share in the chat as well. And I'll leave you to it. See you in a bit.
Hello, my people. Yes, it's me, Lenny Henry. I'm coming to you virtually because nothing says cutting edge tech summit like a 65-year-old national treasure squinting at a laptop yelling, "Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?" Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of the future of philanthropy. It's exciting to explore how billionaires' wealth could be used to help someone other than Elon Musk's dealer. I want to talk to you today about overcoming obstacles, taking creative risks, leading change, and most importantly, reinventing yourself. These things are a big part of my life, and I know they're a huge part of the work you all do. Hopefully you'll be able to relate and be inspired by what I have to say, but if not, you can just print out a screen grab of my face, put it up at home, and pretend like you've got some black friends. When I was researching today's event, several words leapt out at me and got me excited: change makers, solutions, inspire, and action. I believe we need these things more than ever right now. We have more concentrated individual wealth than ever before, and yet the gap between rich and poor has never felt wider, and inequality is felt at every level of society. I've got first-hand experience of how philanthropy can bridge that gap and change people's lives, not just those who need help, but those we're helping. It absolutely changed mine. In 1985, Richard Curtis got in touch with me and asked for my help raising funds for famine relief in Africa and particularly Ethiopia and the Sudan. Richard had already been out there and seen firsthand how people's lives had been devastated. Richard asked me, because I knew all the comedians, so we wrote letters to everybody asking if they would be in a fundraising TV show. That sounds so old-fashioned today. I might as well have said, pop a scroll into a bottle and chuck it in the Thames. Rowan Atkinson will find it eventually. None of the established comedians wanted to do it. They all thought it was too political, you know. I used to be mad about that. But that's what entertainment was like in those days. Just do your act. Don't speak up. Don't stick your neck out. Luckily, the new wave of comedians, thankfully, people like Billy Connolly, Jasper Carrott, Rick Mayall, Adrian Edmondson, the comic strip, French and Saunders, Victoria Wood, Ben Elton, they all had the courage to say, screw that, we're in. We embraced our roles as change makers. We weren't intimidated by those who came before, even though many of them were our heroes. We knew we had to reinvent what comics were allowed to do. And so from the first TV program in 1988, where Frank Bruno and I performed Shakespeare to a disbelieving crowd, "Juliet, Juliet, wherefore art thou, Juliet? I haven't seen thee since the wedding, do you know what I mean, Harry?" From that night to this year, we have raised, and I'm going to correct you, nearly £2 billion. It's been an incredible ride with so many great moments, so many iconic moments. Catherine Tate meeting Tony Blair, Dawn French snogging Hugh Grant, me snogging Elle Macpherson. There was a lot of snogging back then. James Corden invented carpool karaoke for Comic Relief. Since then, he's raised so much money for James Corden. I'm actually kidding. Smithy and George Michael were brilliant. And it just goes to show the power of philanthropic behavior, how it evolves and changes and crucially lives on. Lots of things went wrong, and so many things were difficult and upsetting. But the inspiring things, the uplifting moments, made it all worthwhile. I remember going to a village in Ethiopia, and we interviewed all the people there who had been victims of famine and war. And at lunchtime, we were all BBC crew. We decided we wanted to go and have lunch, and we needed to be out of the way of the people in the village to give them their dignity. So I saw a big green mound on that side of the village, on the outside of the village. And I said, why don't we go and have our lunch there? So we did. And we sat there eating BBC lunch, crispy bread and squeezy cheese and water. And I saw some kids come out and looking at us eating our lunch on this mound, and they started to laugh at us. And then the next minute, some grown-ups came out and they started to laugh at us too. And I said to the translator guy, go and find out what they're laughing at. And he went over there and asked him, and then he started to laugh. And then he came back. I said, why are they laughing? He said, you are eating your lunch on the dung heap. So that was nice. Anyway, my role has changed now. I'm embracing being a life president of Comic Relief. Unfortunately, that's also what Donald Trump seems to want to do, be life president. But what keeps me coming back is the belief that change is possible, that charity work isn't just charity, it's justice in action. Philanthropy sounds like something only billionaires do after they bought their third yacht. And volunteering, well, that conjures up images of making tea at the church hall and marshalling a car park in a high-vis jacket. Now, don't get me wrong, I love all of those things. But what I'm talking about is the drive to do something big, something transformative, something that stirs your soul. That's what I like to call change the worldism. That's my superpower. And I truly believe it's a superpower we all have by doing the things we're passionate about, especially outside of our paychecks and job descriptions. We can actually change the world. Some people change the world through spreadsheets, some through surgical tools, some by singing a duet with Tom Jones in leather trousers, tighter than Keir Starmer's winter fuel allowance. When we give freely of our time, our energy, our creativity, without expecting anything in return, that's when the real magic happens. Now, those of you who've heard me speak before might know I like to frame my life and work around 5 principles of life. They've guided me through my career in comedy, my journey into acting, my work in diversity, and yes, my passion for charity. So let me walk you through how these can help shape a life of meaningful philanthropy and purpose-driven change. First, listening. Charity begins with listening, not with solutions, not with speeches, but with listening. The first person I listened to was my mom, I think. She came to Britain from Jamaica in the 1950s when things were still very tough. There were signs everywhere, and I mean everywhere, that said no blacks, no Irish, no dogs, which are also Suella Braverman settings on Tinder. She wanted things to be better for us. Mum, that is, not Suella. I'm pretty sure the only thing Suella wants is my ass on a one-way flight back to Jamaica. Anyway, one day, she lined all of us kids up in the hallway. That's me, my sister Bev, Sharon, Paul, Seymour, Kay, and Hilton. I know, the guy who advertises Premier Inn has a brother called Hilton. And my mum said to us, you have to integrate with the people from Dudley. You have to make friends with them, eat their food. It's not their fault they serve little portions. And I still got bullied at school. There was this one kid who always wanted to fight me just because I was a black guy. One day we were going at it, rolling around on the floor in the car park, and I got this idea. A light bulb went on over my head. And I said this, you must really fancy me because you're always trying to get me to roll around on the floor with you. He said, are we going to fight or what? And suddenly all these kids are going, fight, fight, fight. But I carried on. I said, you could always buy me a ring, make it official. And finally, that kid just got frustrated because I kept making jokes and he walked away. Ladies and gentlemen, that bully never picked on me ever again. My mum had taught me to listen, and that bully taught me how to use comedy as a sword and a shield. Listening is step one. Acting on what you hear, that takes courage, which is my second principle. When my mum died, it was a terrible blow to me. Many of you will know what that's like, losing a parent. I felt like all my courage was zapped out of me. It was the end of the 90s. I'd been bumping along. I had a sitcom called Chef and my own production company called Crucial Films. But I was playing it safe. And Mum's passing made me realize I needed to do something completely different. I was presenting a radio show called What's So Great About? Shakespeare, where I met a director named Barry Rutter. He was from up north. After the recording, Barry said he thought I should play Othello. And before you knew it, I was in rehearsals, not just for my first ever play, but one of Shakespeare's most brilliant and most famous roles. Barry is a brilliant, mad northerner from Hull, and he told me the story of Othello. He said, well, you're the general. You're there. You're going to make a speech. You're sitting on the bed. You've got a knife somewhere. We don't know where it is. It could be under the pillow. It could be in the bedhead. It could be in your sock. We don't know. Suddenly, all the men come in and there's 2 dead women on the bed and you're there and they're going to arrest you. But you say, soft you, a word or two before you go. I have done the state some service and they note. No more of that. And all that. And I learned how to do it. It was brilliant learning from Barry. And I summoned up the courage and I did the play. And I went to the Trafalgar Theatre and it was amazing. It was in the round and there were these 2 women in kneecaps. You could just see their eyes watching the play. And I got to the end. I stabbed myself in the chest with a knife in my sock and I fell to the floor. And one of the women in the kneecaps leaned forward and said, shame, man. And the other one said, do you know what I mean? In it, though. And you could see my shoulders in the dark. I'm supposed to be dead doing this. That's a lesson for us all, ladies and gentlemen. Never let fear stop you from making a big decision, because just the act of making it means that you've succeeded. My third principle is collaboration. Changing the world is a team sport. Surround yourself with good people, work together, lift each other up. Teamwork makes the dream work, I know, and success is sweeter when it's shared. Collaboration, my favorite thing, is about knowing when to lead and when to support, when to share your expertise and when to learn from others. It's about building networks of trust and respect, creating opportunities not just for yourself, but for those around you. Every major milestone in my career has been the result of working with brilliant people who brought out the best in me. This was definitely the case when I wrote my first play, August in England, last year. 5 stars in The Guardian, darling. By now, you know that I like to make things difficult for myself. So you won't be surprised to know that I also starred in it, and I was the only person in the cast. A one-man show is a tricky beast. You've got to keep the energy going with just the actor and director all through rehearsals. Now, luckily, I had 2 great directors to collaborate with, Daniel Bailey and Lynette Linton. We were dealing with pretty raw stuff in the show, and it was amazing to be in a room with 2 other black people who could bring their own insights and experience to the table. The play was about the Windrush deportations, which is a very emotional topic for me. Black people who were told they would have a home here were suddenly kicked out without any explanation. Like the Tories are going to do with Kemi Badenoch in about 2 weeks. Those people who were unjustly and cruelly sent back to Jamaica could have been a member of any of our families. Having other people in the room who truly understood what I was trying to articulate gave me the confidence to go out there and tell that story. I never felt alone on stage because every night I knew they had my back. And black people love to join in, man. I was once playing a bit of a scoundrel in August Wilson's play called King Henry II. At one point, I was romancing the female actor in the play, and this Jamaican woman on the front row shouted, "Don't trust him. His trousers are too tight at the front. If I was you, I'd run." In theatre, the audience is another collaborator. They bring something to the play every night. With black audiences, it's usually curry goat and rice for dinner. Every night the lights would go down and you'd hear the sound of 1,000 Tupperware containers cracking open. "Lenny, don't start your acting yet. I can't find my spork." Number 4 is authenticity. For me, that means behaving in a situation exactly as you would on camera as well as off. I once made a documentary in Kenya. It was called Famous, Rich and in the Slums. They sent a bunch of us celebrities to the worst slum in Kibera. I travelled to very deprived areas for comic relief, but nothing could prepare me for this. 2 million people crammed into a space the size of Central Park with no electricity or plumbing. We each had to give up our clothes, credit cards, computers, and live just like everybody else in this ghetto. We had different tasks. Mine was to move into this rickety and horrible house with 4 kids, the oldest of which was called Bernard. Their parents had died in political violence. One of them had died from HIV. When I got to their house, the first thing I thought was, if I sleep here for 2 nights, I'm going to be sick. They had an open drain running down the middle of their room, 3 toilets blocked next to the door, all blocked, no lights, nothing to wash, nowhere to wash. They had to go someplace else to get water. It was horrible. I slept in the same room with them, and the next morning I woke up and I was immediately ill. And I was really upset. I don't know how those kids could survive like this, but to them it was just another day. The comic relief thing to do in that situation was just to carry on filming. But I couldn't do that. So I did what any red-blooded male would do in that situation. I burst into tears. I mean, proper tears. I cried like I'd just been unmasked on The Traitors. I insisted we stop filming and we get the kids out of there now. And they could see that I meant it. So they did. We moved the kids temporarily to somewhere with electricity, a shower, and a working toilet. And shortly after that, we got them a little house of their own. It wasn't what I was supposed to do in this documentary, but it was an authentic reaction from me to them. And it's one of the things I'm proudest of. I'd never experienced such cramped, squalid, desperate conditions because this was before I started doing adverts for the Premier Inn. My final principle is punching up, not down. Use your voice to challenge power, not to mock those who have none. Philanthropy must be about justice, not just generosity. We don't help people because they're less than. We stand with them because injustice affects us all. When I speak out, whether it's on poverty in the third world or in the UK, or representation on screen, or access to education, I aim to punch up, to question systems, to challenge the status quo. I think that's what real leadership looks like. Right now, there are leaders all over the world who are against the work we do. They want a world with no equality, no diversity, and certainly no philanthropy. They want all the resources for themselves, and that includes bullying, suing, intimidating, and denying basic facts. I know it seems daunting. It is daunting. But we have something that is far more powerful than anything they have, and they know it, and they're afraid of it. And it's really good when people are afraid of these things, because it means we're on the right track, right? We have heart, compassion, empathy, vulnerability, and kindness. And most importantly, we have each other. That's what Comic Relief is really all about. Not the sketches or the fundraising stunts or even the red noses. It's all about the people. When Comic Relief started, we used to say, if these things were happening to your neighbour, you'd cross the road to help. That's what philanthropy means to me. You guys you don't cross the road. You cross oceans to change lives and make the world better. I've seen it. I've been part of it. And £2 billion has been spent putting this into action. I want to close with one of the favourite things that's ever happened to me, I think. One of the things about Comic Relief is that everybody involved, including all the young people, studied Comic Relief at school because we're part of the curriculum. We used to do a video called Teacher Relief. We'd send it to all the schools, and they all learned about philanthropy from that. So we had people like Adele and, the Spice Girls. Oh, and Victoria Beckham went to Kenya for us. It was amazing. Posh Spice went to Kenya. She was walking down this village street in her Jimmy Choos and her little miniskirt, all these children behind her saying, "You must eat something." Anyway, thank you very much for listening. And that's me. Cheers.
Oh my gosh, you have kept us laughing and moving us at the same time, Sir Lenny.
Weird when I can't hear you, but thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. Oh, wonderful. Well, I was just saying, you had us feeling extremely moved, motivated, and you had us laughing.
Thank you.
And I love what you say about comedy being a sword and a sword for good. When did you get that realization that you knew that was possible?
I think if you don't laugh, you'll cry, right? I think that most of my favorite comedians say serious things in a funny way. My heroes are people like George Carlin, Richard Pryor, Robin Williams. These people handle incredibly sad moments, but they do them with style. All I did was kill the car. Richard Pryor was hilarious. Then my heart said, didn't I tell you not to eat pork? These are very serious things, but they're said in a funny way. So I've always tried to do that and emulate my heroes. I think at school, I stood up to the bullies, as I told you, by being funny. Victoria Wood said a brilliant thing. She said, if somebody says something horrible to you, just say something back. We can stand up to bullies. And I think this in terms of our leaders at the moment, sometimes they feel like they're bullying us as people. And I think it's all right not to be scared. It's all right to push back. We are human beings. And if we stand together, we can push back and say, no, we voted for you and we think you guys need to be doing this. And if enough of us stand up to it, like the bloke in Tiananmen Square with his shopping, I personally think he just wandered across the road from the supermarket and found himself in front of a tank. But I think you can stand up to things and go, no, we've had enough of this. We want you guys to do this. Listen to us. Our voice is important. Listen to us. And that's how I think it's got to be.
I don't want to remind you, but it has been 40 years since Comic Relief began.
It's a long time.
You're looking fantastic.
Thank you very much. They said a lot of people And I think they mean it in a nice way, say the black don't crack. And the thing about our people, right on, is that we look great for years and years and years and years and years, and then we suddenly get old. It's like Stormzy, 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 Uncle Ben's rice. And that's who we are as people, and I think that's great. Survival is important. Also, a good moisturizer.
Well, you're going to have to tell us your secret. Put that in the chat function. But
I will.
I wanted to ask you, it can feel really daunting that, do we actually make change? The issues that you were dealing with 40 years ago, are they the same today? Do we get traction? Do we make progress?
I think we are making progress, but it's very difficult when issues of diversity, inclusion, and equality are being pushed back, when they're making cutbacks, when they're trying to stamp out educational initiatives, when they're trying to stop us researching about why diversity works and why it doesn't work. My research centre is already being pushed back in terms of investment, in terms of diversity, inclusion, and that's why we exist. So we're in a big fight. If you don't know you're in a fight, we're in a fight. But what's great is we have allies. It's important that you know that things like this, things that people getting behind us and saying we stand with you, is really important. We need white, able-bodied, working-class people to stand with us. We need intellectuals to stand with us. We need male, female, black, brown, white, whatever, to stand with us and be part of what we're trying to do, because these things are important. If we don't stand, we're going to fall, and we all need to be together to hold each other up. So, and I think that's what's got a bit more calibrated recently. We're all realizing that post George Floyd, we've got to stand up and make a stand for these things. Otherwise, we're just going to be rolled over, and we don't want that.
The path is long and can be hard, and we live in transformative times. Let's put it that way. What is your advice? Where do you get your motivation? What is your advice for the rest of us to, stay the path in terms of trying to make an individual difference?
I think that be brave. One of the things I talk about is doing Othello when I was 50. I won a Best Newcomer award when I was 50 years old. You could encourage a guy. I think be brave. There's a wonderful expression which is go to your scary place, the thing you're most scared of, and live there. Lean into the thing that scares you the most. And I am the most conflict averse person in the universe. When I was a kid, my mom could punch you through a brick wall. So I did not want to upset my mom. And I think that if anybody else had a mom like that, that you go around and thanks for noticing me. You don't want anybody to be hurting you. You'd rather collaborate than not, things like that. But what I've learned getting older is you have to lean into the things that scare you, because the only way that works, the only way things change is if we do that. You don't march on police people with hoses and dogs because you want to. You do it because you've got to. And we're getting to a point now with climate change, with anti-gay, anti-LGBTQ, with racism, where we have to lean into these things and go, no, we're going to stand here until this changes. This is what changes things. Stand up to it, have your allies with you, and just go for it. And, I think it's a wonderful thing when we stand together, and we need to do that more.
Recently, you have won the Carnegie Medal of Philanthropy Catalyst Award. What did that mean to you?
It meant a great deal. Richard Curtis and I received that award on behalf of Comic Relief, and it's a testament to everybody who's donated money to Comic Relief. So really, it was a prize for the entire British Isles and everybody beyond, but also for Richard Curtis's leadership and the people that started Comic Relief. And I wore a kilt on the day, which was great. So people of Scotland respected that. And I just thought it was a wonderful thing to be acknowledged like that. It's nice to be noticed, and it's nice when people acknowledge the hard work that everybody has put in. And that's what it meant to me. It meant the team at Comic Relief, because teamwork does make the dream work, really work hard. It's every year now, Comic Relief. They work hard to make it happen. And then the public go, okay, we believe this is a good thing to do, and they join in, give their money. So that's to be celebrated. And we're above 1.5 billion now. It's 2 billion, because we also do Comic Relief in America. So this is extraordinary. So thank you to everybody who contributed to that.
So that is absolutely, mind-boggling. That is so much that has been raised for so many good causes. And I wonder how you thought about, in the beginning, what you could actually, what were your aspirations? What could you actually do? So you knew that comedy should be harnessed for this purpose, but, what were your expectations?
Well, 40 years ago, it was an unusual thing to say, let's get all the comedians on television being funny. We call it, let's be funny for money. But now we've got Stand Up to Cancer, we've got Children in Need. And what's great is people in our industry are reaching out and doing things for people who need it, because we get to be funny and we get paid very well. And the most valuable thing we have is time. So I think, why not give a portion of your time? Why not tithe your time and say, I'm going to give a week, I'm going to give a day. My sister Bev gives 1 day a week to a food bank. I've got friends who work part-time in, the local charity shop. You give a part of your time to do something. And I think that's the most valuable thing you can give. So why not start with doing that? 40 years ago, we thought, well, we'll do this once and then, that'll be it. We raised 15 million with the first one. And then we went, like Scooby-Doo. We didn't realize that it would mean that much to people. And we were encouraged to do one the next year. Then it was another 15 million. And then the next thing was 24 million pounds. So clearly it was an idea that resonated with a lot of people. And then we just carried on. And once we got into our stride with it, it was everywhere. There were house noses, there were red noses, there were nose earrings. Everybody bought into the idea. And I think that when you do something that strikes a chord with people, it is that thing of, look, if this was happening over the road from your house, you'd run across the road with blankets, with food, you'd have money, you'd try and help. And I think globally, diversity, equality, inclusion, being philanthropic is absolutely about giving not a handout, but a leg up. If you can give a leg up to people who need it, you're doing God's work. And I think that's what we're all about here.
You don't know how many people you have touched in having red noses. I've got two young sons, and they're about my house. But I see Esther's back. Esther, do we have until 12:15?
Yes, we've got until 12. We've got you for a couple more minutes, Sir Lenny Henry, if that's okay. And I'm a huge fan, and I grew up with the Lenny Henry show. I don't know whether all of your noises.
I heard you going. You did make me laugh.
I mean, it does help if you're a philanthropist and you're trying to encourage people from around the world. And we have got a global audience today. So say hello to the world.
Hello, global audience. Very nice.
Nigeria,
hope some of this made sense.
Uganda. A few people have been saying, do I understand the humour here? But I just wanted to share with you. I know somebody was trying to explain the Stormzy joke.
Well, Stormzy's very young and Uncle Ben is very old.
He's very old. So
it's very simple jokes. It's not rocket
science. Of our fantastic audience's comments for you. So things like I'm in stitches, lots of emojis. You do use emojis, don't you, Sir Lenny?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's lots and lots of emojis, people laughing, they're loving it. People saying, Lenny, you're an inspiration. Love the Premier in joke. I think that was the one where you called your brothers called Hilton.
Yeah.
Loved your listening collaboration, punching up, loved your modus operandi and your core beliefs. What a pro. That was so good. I'm laughing out of my chair, says Charlene.
That's a good thing to do.
And I've
Please
got
get
to
back
thank
in.
Marcia, I've got to thank you for making this happen. I know that you were really excited to invite Sir Lenny today. We were talking about it.
Yeah. I've got two more questions that I just want to ask you, Sir Lenny. One is, you knew in 2024 that the time was right to take that life presidency. That was really humble. How did you make that decision? And will we ever see you on screen again for comic relief?
Of course. Well, I've got a production company here. I better be back on screen, otherwise we'll have to go bankrupt or something. So yes, I will be back on television again soon. It was announced the other day that ITV are doing a television show called Shark Infested Waters, and I'm in a documentary series about swimming with sharks which is going to be on soon, which is hilarious because I don't like the water and I'm very frightened of sharks. So the program is going to be very enlightening for people who know me. And I'm developing drama series with my production company, which is called Esmeralda. And I intend to be on television until I fall off the twig. So I look forward to that. It's very interesting. You know, my father dropped and died 2 months after he gave up work. So I don't intend to stop. I think there's more to give to the world. Becoming life president of Comic Relief was important to me, and stepping down from being a presenter on the show, because I feel like there are so many young people who are coming up in our industry who need the platform to show their philanthropy, and it's time to give them the chance to show their worth and to show that they care. And there are brilliant people like, you know, Scott Mills and Alison Hammond. There's people like Delisa Chipondo, Jeannie Asheray. There are many comedians of colour who haven't been involved with Comic Relief, and they want to be involved too. And there's many new people who are just allies who want to be involved with Comic Relief. It's a big thing. So it's time to step down and let some of the newer people come up. But I'll still be behind the scenes recruiting people and talking to sponsors and recruiting people who want to donate to Comic Relief. So I'll still be there, but I'll just be behind the scenes. But I'm doing a play in the autumn in the West End called Every Brilliant Thing. And I'm hoping to do a TV series next year. It's very, very, very exciting time.
Wonderful. Well, we're gonna come and see you. You'll be sold out with all our tickets.
Thank you.
That we're gonna
Every
buy.
Brilliant Thing. It's this year. Starts in August.
Well, I will skip my last question, which was, you know, you're in a rare group that is a freeman and have the key to the city of London, about whether you were going to actually take up your right to drive sheep over London Bridge. But I'm going to leave that because I see Esther needs to keep us on time. But I did want to say that we have Hugh Jones, who is the chief executive of RX Global. It's one of the world's largest events business, an integral part of RELX, which is all about fostering communities. And we happen to find out, Sir Lenny, that you are a comic book fan. And one of RX Global's shows is MCM Comic Con, and takes place in London and Birmingham. And we're going to get you some tickets as a little thank you for sharing your brilliance with us today.
Thank you very much. Can I get a voucher to buy some comics as well? Times of stuff out here. I'd love to come to Comic-Con. I can't wait.
We'll
The
make it
day
happen.
somebody on a film said "flame on" and actually caught fire was one of the happiest days of my life. So yes, I'd love to come to Comic-Con. I can't. Marvel Comics and DC Comics have been in my life since I was 8, when my mom picked all of them up and threw them on the fire because I was making a mess. So you'll be pleased to know I have bought so many comics as an adult. It's ridiculous because my mom did that. But thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And I'm literally, Dudley, where I'm from, is like 10 miles from Birmingham. So yes, please tell me when it is, and I'll be there with bells on, as they say.
Oh, Sir Lenny, thank you, Esther, for introducing us. And Sir Lenny, it's been great to talk to you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
to my
much.
global audience.
Give yourself a
If
round
you
of
write to me,
applause.
I'll explain lots of the jokes for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Marcia. And that was fantastic. What a man. I'll be sharing more of your comments. Thank you so much for commenting. Thank you for your emojis. Keep the emojis coming. Keep the applause coming. I mean, if you can do sound effects and keep people laughing and have a message and be authentic and create amazing collaborations, then we can all change the world together. We can all inspire people to be philanthropists. So thank you just for tuning in today. You are making a difference.